When you are sitting comfortably in a passenger jet, the last word you ever want to imagine hearing is Mayday. For many people, this single word conjures images of chaos and disaster. It is the ultimate distress signal, a universal call for help that cuts through all other radio chatter. The movies and news reports have taught us to associate Mayday with the worst possible scenarios in the air. This connection is powerful, and it is the reason a sense of panic can grip anyone who hears it. It signals that something has gone seriously wrong, and that the aircraft and everyone on board are in grave and imminent danger. However, the reality of a Mayday call is often quite different from what you might picture. While it does signify a serious emergency, it is not a cry of panic from the pilots. Instead, it is the beginning of a highly structured and well-rehearsed set of procedures. Think of it less as a scream for help, and more as a clear, loud announcement that says, "We have a critical problem, and we need priority assistance now." It is a tool used by pilots to get the full and undivided attention of air traffic control, ensuring they receive all the support they need to handle the situation safely and efficiently. The reason people react with such fear is because they are not part of that professional world. For passengers, flying is an act of trust. You are placing your life in the hands of the crew and the machine. Hearing a word that confirms a life-threatening problem shatters that sense of security. It is a sudden, stark reminder of the risks involved in aviation. Even though flying is statistically the safest form of travel, your imagination can run wild with possibilities, none of them good. This fear is understandable, but it is based on an outsider's perspective of what is happening on the flight deck. From a pilot's perspective, the word Mayday is a key that unlocks a toolbox of emergency resources. It is not an admission of defeat, it is an assertion of command. By declaring an emergency, the pilots are taking positive action. They are telling the world that they are actively managing a severe problem and require specific assistance to resolve it. This call grants them priority over all other aircraft. They can deviate from their flight path, change altitude, and request an immediate landing at the nearest suitable airport. It is the first step in a disciplined process, not the last gasp of a hopeless situation. You might wonder why pilots use the word Mayday in the first place. It sounds a bit like a date in spring, which seems odd for a distress signal. The origin of the term is actually quite practical and goes back to the early days of aviation in the 1920s. At that time, radio communication between aircraft and the ground was becoming more common. Most of the air traffic was between England and France, specifically between Croydon Airport in London and Le Bourget Airport in Paris. There was a need for a distress call that could be easily understood by both English and French speakers. The credit for inventing the term goes to a man named Frederick Stanley Mockford. He was a senior radio officer at Croydon Airport. He was asked to come up with a word that would be hard to mistake for any other message, even over a noisy and crackly radio transmission. He thought about the common French phrase used for distress, which is venez m'aider. This phrase translates to, "come and help me." Mockford took the part that sounded like Mayder or help me and anglicized it into the word Mayday. It was a perfect choice because it was simple, clear, and easy to say. The new term was officially adopted as the International Radio Telephone Distress Signal in 1927. The protocol for using it is also very specific. A pilot must say the word Mayday 3 times in a row. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This repetition is crucial. It ensures that the call is not missed or mistaken for a message that simply contains the word Mayday in a normal sentence. Repeating it 3 times makes the message stand out clearly above all other radio traffic, signaling to everyone on the frequency that a life-threatening emergency is in progress and all other communications must stop. So when a pilot uses this word, they are participating in a tradition that is nearly a century old. It is a system designed for clarity under pressure. The choice of Mayday was not random. It was a thoughtful solution to a multilingual communication problem. It has since become the universal signal for grave danger, not just in aviation but also for maritime vessels. It is a powerful example of how a simple, well-designed procedure can create order out of potential chaos, ensuring that a call for help is heard and understood anywhere in the world. When a situation on board an aircraft deteriorates to the point of a Mayday call, the atmosphere in the cockpit is not one of frantic panic. It is in fact the opposite. This is where years of relentless training take over. The pilots immediately shift into a mode of intense focus and methodical action. The first officer is typically responsible for flying the aircraft, while the captain is responsible for managing the overall situation, communicating and running through checklists. This division of labor is a core principle of crew resource management, ensuring that no single task is overlooked. The decision to declare Mayday is a calculated one. The pilots use a simple mantra: aviate, navigate, communicate. The first priority is always to fly the airplane. This means maintaining control, keeping the wings level, and ensuring the aircraft is in a stable state. The second priority is to navigate, which means knowing where you are and figuring out the safest place to go. Only after these two critical tasks are under control does the third priority come into play: communicate. The Mayday call is part of this third step, informing the outside world of the problem. Once the call is made, Mayday, 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 a dialogue begins with air traffic control. The controller will immediately clear the frequency, asking all other aircraft to maintain radio silence. They will then ask the crew for the 3 N's, their nature of the emergency, their intentions, and the number of souls on board. For example, a pilot might respond, "We have an engine fire, our intention is to return immediately to the airport for landing, and we have 180 souls on board." This information allows the controller to coordinate the response on the ground, such as dispatching fire trucks and emergency services to the runway. Throughout this entire process, pilots rely heavily on their checklists. For almost every conceivable emergency, from an engine failure to a cabin depressurization, there is a specific written procedure to follow. These checklists are not memorized, they are read aloud and actioned step by step. This prevents pilots from forgetting a critical action under stress. The process is deliberate and calm. It is a testament to the robust safety culture in aviation, where problems are managed through well-rehearsed drills rather than improvisation. The cockpit becomes a place of intense, quiet cooperation. The reason pilots and air traffic controllers can remain so calm during a Mayday event is simple training. An airline pilot does not just learn how to fly a plane in perfect weather. A huge portion of their career is spent in simulators, practicing how to handle every emergency imaginable. These multi-million-dollar simulators can realistically replicate almost any failure, from a blown tire on takeoff to a complete loss of hydraulic power. Pilots spend hours upon hours in these training devices, repeating emergency procedures until they become second nature. They are graded not just on fixing the problem, but on their ability to work as a team and communicate effectively under extreme pressure. This rigorous training culture extends to the air traffic controllers as well. They also have their own simulators and drills for handling emergency situations. When a Mayday call comes in, their training kicks in instantly. They know exactly what information to ask for and how to clear the airspace to give the emergency aircraft priority. They become a vital part of the flight crew's team, working to guide the plane to the safest possible landing. They coordinate with ground crews, emergency services, and other aircraft to create a sterile and protected environment for the plane in distress. Their calm, professional voice on the radio can be a reassuring presence for the pilots. This is why you should feel reassured, not terrified by the systems in place. The Mayday call is not the beginning of the end. It is the activation of a massive, well-oiled safety machine. It brings together a team of highly trained professionals, pilots, flight attendants, controllers, and ground crews, who all have one goal: to get the aircraft and its passengers on the ground safely. The procedures are designed to remove panic from the equation and replace it with methodical, proven solutions. Every action taken is deliberate and has been practiced countless times before. So, while the word Mayday is reserved for the most serious of circumstances, it is also a signal that a system built on decades of experience is swinging into action. The calm you hear in a pilot's voice during an emergency is not an act, it is the sound of competence. It is the result of thousands of hours of training designed for that exact moment. Flying remains the safest way to travel precisely because the industry relentlessly prepares for the worst-case scenarios. Your flight crew has it covered, and the Mayday call is simply their way of letting everyone else know it is time to help them do their job.